we must address the situation in Cuba with clarity and courage. Cuba is our Caribbean neighbor. Its doctors and teachers have served across our region. Its people are part of our shared history. But today, the Cuban people face severe economic hardship, energy shortages, and growing humanitarian strain. Jamaica is sensitive to the struggles of the Cuban people. Humanitarian suffering serves no one. Apart from our fraternal care and solidarity with the Cuban people, it must be clear that a prolonged crisis in Cuba will not remain confined to Cuba. It will affect migration, security, and economic stability across the Caribbean basin.
Tensions between the United States and Cuba continue to shape political conversations across the Caribbean. Recently, Jamaica's Prime Minister Andrew Holness addressed the situation. So, what exactly did he say? And why does this matter for Jamaica and the wider Caribbean? So guys, I have his speech here with me. I want us to watch this speech and then I'll be back with more commentary. As you watch, remember to like the video, share the video, and subscribe to our channel. Thank you.
It is therefore important that we carefully consider this matter and take collective action. Let there be no doubt, Jamaica stands firmly for democracy, human rights, political accountability, and open market-based economies. We do not believe that long-term stability can exist where economic freedom is constrained and political participation is limited. Sustainable prosperity requires openness to ideas, to enterprise, to investment, and to the will of the people. This moment, therefore, calls not for rhetoric, but for responsible statecraft, even as we encourage support for humanitarian relief. Jamaica supports constructive dialogue between Cuba and the United States aimed at de-escalation, reform, and stability. We believe there is space, perhaps more space now than in years past, for pragmatic engagement that protects the Cuban people from any further deterioration in their circumstances and instead promotes national and regional prosperity. Friends, colleagues, as it has been said, the geopolitical environment is shifting. Maybe it has already shifted. This may well be a moment of opportunity, a moment for transition, for recalibration, for a new chapter. CARICOM can play a constructive role, not as an ideological bloc, but as a community of democratic states offering cooperation, economic reform, and social development. This is not a moment for division in our community. It is a moment for maturity, for principled realism, and if we act wisely, for positive change in our hemisphere. This brings me to the second shared challenge, navigating the transformation of the global system itself. The new geopolitical and economic environment is being shaped by strategic rivalry, supply chain realignment, and a new era of trade protectionism alongside rapid technological disruptions powered by artificial intelligence. Control over information platforms, standards, algorithms, and networks now influence economic power national security, and policy autonomy as profoundly as control over physical resources once did. For small states, the risk of marginalization in this environment are real, but so too are the opportunities for leapfrogging if we act deliberately. Digital capability is now a component of sovereignty. States that do not shape how technology is deployed will increasingly find their policy space shaped by others. Small states cannot afford to be passive observers of these shifts. Yet, here again, CARICOM's diversity is an asset. Because we are not bound to a single foreign policy. Different member states can cultivate different diplomatic, commercial, and strategic relationships. Rather than viewing this as fragmentation, we should recognize it as opportunity. Multiple points of engagement in a complex global system that can collectively enhance the region's resilience, influence, and optionality. No single Caribbean state can build scale across these domains alone, but together we can pool talent, align standards, develop digital public infrastructure to enhance productivity, inclusion, and resilience. Success will, however, require deep engagement, information sharing, and collaboration with each other. It will require true enhanced cooperation.
There is concern of a possible diplomatic fallout between Jamaica and the United States. This after a U.S. congressman condemned Prime Minister Dr. Holness' statement on Cuba, warning that the country will face consequences. Speaking on the opening day of the CARICOM Heads of Government meeting in St. Kitts and Nevis on Tuesday, Prime Minister Holness highlighted the economic hardship, energy shortages, and growing humanitarian challenges being experienced in Cuba. But in a quote post on X referencing Dr. Holness' comments, Congressman Carlos Jimenez accused the GOP government of covering up for the Cuban dictatorship. Jimenez sits on the House Committee on Armed Services and Homeland Security. Now, his post on X didn't specify what those consequences could be. Now, for context, this is what
Congressman, come here. Because at the end of the day, Dr. Michael Holness said nothing wrong. I don't understand why you came out with that very harsh statement to make it seem as if the Prime Minister said something wrong, or to make it seem as if the Prime Minister of Jamaica, when he goes out on certain functions, he should speak on behalf of the US, and when the US is having a row with any other country, the Prime Minister should ensure that they take the stance of the US and speak on behalf of the US. Congressman, the Prime Minister did not say anything wrong, and the Prime Minister is within his right to speak up. Now, if it is that we're going to talk about Cuba and communism and how it is that they deal with their people, we can also speak about China as well. Now, Congressman, Jamaica benefits a lot from Cuba when we look at the doctors and the nurses that come into our country, and too, when we look at our aspiring students from Jamaica that go into Cuba to study. The Prime Minister said nothing wrong. The Prime Minister made a diplomatic presentation, and the Prime Minister just ensured that he spoke, and he spoke the truth on behalf of Cuba and the Cuban people. So don't come threatening us. Jamaica stands with our Prime Minister. We stand with Prime Minister Holness, and we stand behind his presentation.
Jamaica, come close. I'm wanting to listen to me very carefully. Because right now there's a story going around all over TikTok and social media, and it sounds very powerful. But Jamaica, it is not fully true. A lot of people are posting and saying, finally, the PM Holness stand up to the United States in support of Cuba. Jamaica, please slow down. Let me clear this for you properly. The PM Holness did not announce that Jamaica was siding with Cuba against the United States. He did not say the Jamaican government supports the Cuban government over America. He did not say we're aligning with communism. What he said, Jamaica, was this, and listen to me carefully. If Cuba collapses, if Cuba becomes unstable, the Caribbean suffers. Jamaica, that is a regional stability statement. It is not political alliance. It is not rebellion. It is not defiance against the United States. It is just diplomacy, and that's a very big difference, Jamaica. Jamaica, walk with me, because I'm going to explain it like this. If your neighbor houses catch on fire, you don't have to like your neighbor, you don't have to love your neighbor. You don't even have to agree with your neighbor's lifestyle. But if the fire spread, your house will catch on fire too. So you say, let's calm this fire down before it spreads. That's what the PM did, Jamaica. He said, if Cuba destabilizes, migration increases, security problems increase, economic pressure increase across the Caribbean, and that includes Jamaica. So what he did was call for dialogue. Dialogue, Jamaica, it's not support. Understand that dialogue, Jamaica, is just mediation. Now, Jamaica, let's talk about something that everybody is all upset about. The congressman who said that Jamaica will face consequences. Jamaica, understand that that was not the United States government. That was one politician from Florida. One, Jamaica. He is Cuban American. He has strong anti-Cuban views, and that's his political base. Jamaica, I want you to understand something. You see, the state of Florida is very anti-Cuban government. So when he hears Caribbean leaders talk about easing pressure on Cuba, he reacts strongly, and that is domestic U.S. politics. Jamaica, that is not the White House declaring war on Jamaica. Jamaica, the U.S. State Department has not declared any sanctions on Jamaica. No trade cuts have been declared. No visa bans. No financial penalties. So Jamaica, let's not turn political noise into geopolitical crisis. Now Jamaica, here is the deeper part. Some Jamaicans feel proud right now. They feel like, yes, we finally stand up to America. Jamaica, be very careful. There's a difference between symbolic pride and strategic positioning. The PM, Minister Holness, is balancing. Let's not forget these few facts, Jamaica. Jamaica's largest trading partner is the United States. Most remittances come from the United States. Tourism is mostly from the United States. The banking system is connected to the US dollar clearing system. Security cooperation is with the United States. You don't think Jamaica really gonna throw all that away with one sentence? No. So, no, rebellion is not there, Jamaica. Minister Holness was just positioning. He spoke in a way that shows regional solidarity and avoids attacking the US directly. He also avoids endorsing the Cuban government. And he definitely emphasized stability. Jamaica, understand that strategic language. It's definitely not revolution language like we're all jumping up and saying on social media. And if you don't believe me, Jamaica, ask yourself the following questions. Did the PM say Jamaica will defy US sanctions? No. Did he announce new trade deals with Cuba? No. Did he criticize US policy directly? No. What he did was call for de-escalation. And that, Jamaica, is mediator language. So what really is going on right now in the Western Hemisphere? The Caribbean leaders are nervous because if Cuba collapses completely, this is what you're going to get. Both migration crisis, regional instability, economic shock, and a security strain. And all these small islands cannot absorb this pressure easily. So here is the true message that the PM was sending. Let's not let this situation spiral. Jamaica, that's called self-interest, not ideological support. So So now let me address the illusion that's going around on TikTok and on all over the other social media platforms. We know people love a hero moment. We all do. They love to feel like, yes, finally somebody is standing up. But real geopolitics, Jamaica, is not TikTok energy. It's called chess. And the PM did a chess move. Yes, Jamaica, this was a chess move. A very careful one. Jamaica did not pick a side. What Jamaica did was try being caught up between both sides. And that's what happened, Jamaica. Now about these consequences that everybody is rah-rahing about. What was the hidden message in the congressman warning? It was not that we're invading Jamaica. It was simple. Be careful, Andrew, how far you go. That's just pressure language. Yes, political pressure. But pressure Jamaica does not equal punishment. Now, if Jamaica starts helping Cuba and bypass these sanctions, that's a different story. But just simply speaking about humanitarian concerns, Jamaica, it is not sanction-worthy behavior. So here is the truth. The Prime Minister of Jamaica, Andrew Holness, did not support Cuba in the way that Jamaicans on TikTok and the social media is spreading it across the platforms. No, false. What he supported was regional stability. He supported a dialogue. He positioned Jamaica in a diplomatic kind of voice. And that's not betrayal of the United States. It is definitely not revolution either. What it is, Jamaica, is balance. Now here is the real questions for all my Jamaicans on Jamaica Day. Are we reacting emotionally? Or are we analyzing strategically? Because pride without understanding can create false narratives. And false narratives can blind people. Jamaica, you don't need an illusion. What you need is clarity. Remember, Jamaica power is not in shouting. It is in positioning itself wisely. And whether you like the Prime Minister of Jamaica, Andrew Holness, or not, that move that he made was about avoiding chaos within the Caribbean, not about Cuba against America. So don't let social media turn diplomacy into drama. Understand the difference, Jamaica. See clearly, move wisely, and stop celebrating or panicking over headlines. Yes, without reading between the lines. Jamaica, please, open your eye and wake up.
Can't say I never warned Jamaica and tell you, Cuba is now Holness's priority, just as how Haiti was Holness's priority. Every time there's a particular country that wants a Caribbean country to be priority, Holness is the champion boy for that country. How can Holness speak about human rights when they're killing the most Jamaicans in the Caribbean? When his security forces are killing the most Jamaicans and CARICOM people? How can Holness talk about democracy when democracy in this country is being what? How can Holness be talking about free and fair democracy when you speak in this country, it is like a dictatorial rule? How can Holness be talking about democracy and solidarity when the country itself that he's speaking about is worse off? In Cuba, people are not dying like how people are dying in this country by a poor healthcare system. In Cuba, Courtney, people are not in a position where non-communicable diseases are taking them over because the Cuban government sees to it that the healthcare of the people is center and priority. In Cuba, when there was a hurricane, the people were what? Put in shelters. And when the hurricane passed, the government did what? I'm going to ask Holness and Besesa. How did communism change Cuba? Did communism make Cuba worse off or better off? You know what made Cuba in the state that it is in? It is not communism, it's an embargo. is the economic embargo by Cuba is in the state it is in. Then after you, then came Bissesa. Listen to what Bissesa said, Jamaica.
Welcome back. I hope you have watched that message from the Prime Minister Andrew Holness. His message highlighted something very important. When major powers experience political conflict, small states like Jamaica feel the economic and geopolitical ripple effects. And in the Caribbean region, interconnectedness means instability rarely stays isolated. So the question becomes, what exactly is Jamaica's position and why does it matter for the wider region? That's what I want us to break down carefully. So Jamaica and Cuba share more than proximity on a map. They share regional membership through CARICOM engagement. They share historical cooperation, they share development partnerships. So Prime Minister Holness emphasized that Cuba has contributed to the Caribbean through medical professionals, education exchange programs, technical assistance, disaster response collaborations. For decades, Cuban-trained doctors have served across the region, including Jamaica. That contribution plays a role in how Jamaica views its diplomatic relationship with Cuba. However, that does not mean ignoring Cuba's economic challenges. Cuba currently faces serious economic pressure. The key challenges include energy shortages, limited access to foreign currency, supply chain disruption, infrastructure strain, humanitarian concerns. So Holness warned that prolonged instability in Cuba does not remain internal. Why? Well, because economic instability often leads to migration pressure. It affects regional trade. It actually influences security coordination, and it creates broader social consequences across neighboring states. So from Jamaica's perspective, instability in one Caribbean nation can quickly impact the entire basin. That is the core concern: regional ripple effects. In addressing the US-Cuba tensions, Jamaica reaffirmed key principles: support for democracy, support for human rights, support for market-based economic systems. At the same time, Holness advocated for constructive engagement between Washington and Havana. His argument was not about taking sides, it was about reducing escalation. Historically, diplomatic isolation has often prolonged economic hardship without necessarily producing structural reform. Dialogue, reform, and measured engagement may provide pathways toward stability. That is the diplomatic balance Jamaica appears to support. Now, the broader context is very important. So, the global system is undergoing rapid change. We have a strategic rivalry between major powers, trade protectionism, supply chain realignment, and we also have technological acceleration driven by the artificial intelligence, economic uncertainty. Small states must adapt carefully. CARICOM, in its environment, is not positioned as an ideological bloc. Instead, it functions as a cooperative regional platform focused on economic resilience, policy coordination, sustainable development, strategic diplomacy. For Jamaica, diplomacy is about balance, maintaining strong ties with traditional partners while protecting regional interests. Public reaction to Holness' statement has been mixed. Some support strong regional solidarity with Cuba. However, others emphasize Jamaica's economic ties with the United States, especially through trade, tourism, remittances, investments. It's very important to clarify. Diplomatic dialogue does not equal political opposition. Engaging multiple partners is often part of pragmatic foreign policy, especially for small economies. And its core, Jamaica's position reflects strategic diplomacy, not confrontation, not alignment against any country, but stability. In international relations, especially in the Caribbean, stability is often the priority. So the quick question moving forward is, can dialogue between the United States and Cuba reduce tension and promote regional growth? Or will geopolitical competition continue shaping policy decisions? So guys, let's discuss in the comments. Thank you very much for watching until the end. I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.